Black Lives Matter activists have issued new demands on their website, all as the International Olympics Committee officially bans BLM demonstrations. In this video, we're going to take a look at the latest demands by BLM activists, how they're basically jumping the shark and losing all credibility with these demands, and how even the Olympics Committee is pushing back against this radically far-left and divisive movement. You're not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. Great to be with you as always. We are your daily antidote to fake news, as each and every day we analyze current events in light of larger conservative trends in these crazy and turbulent times. Help you to think better so you can feel better. So make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, a little heads up here. We've got a big announcement coming up next week. This involves some major changes going on in my life, and it's going to change this channel, so make sure to stay tuned for more of that to come. Before we dive in here, let's give a huge shout out to the sponsor of this video, and that's our good friends over at Virtual Shield. Gang, if you're not using a VPN or virtual private network on your desktop, tablet, or mobile device while browsing the internet, then you really are exposing yourself to a lot of potential danger. But protecting yourself online simply has never been easier, and to make it even better, Virtual Shield is offering our audience, get this, 50% off all VPN plans and all premium add-ons. So do not wait. This is a limited time offer. Click on that link in the description below and sign up for a free 30-day trial to Virtual Shield VPN today. All right, gang, let's dive right in here. The organization Black Lives Matter has published on their website a series of new demands that call for President Trump to be convicted and permanently banned from all digital media platforms and from ever running for any government position. Again, it's a very bold set of demands, and in many respects, I would argue, it's only serving to delegitimize them to the extent that BLM had any legitimation outside of far-left circles. But first, let's take a look at some of these demands. This is directly from their website, where they've published this under the title, BLM's 7 demands. Demand number 1, convict and ban Trump from future political office. Now, this will give you a sense of how absurd these demands are. This is their first demand, and it's already a doozy. They want to, in effect, retry President Trump. They want to have another trial in the Senate. Otherwise, frankly, I don't know what conviction they could possibly be talking about. They could be advocating charges be brought up against Trump at some federal court level, but no court's going to touch that. No one's going near that. Again, they had 2 trials. They had 2 trials. Of course, the last one being ridiculous because you can't impeach a private citizen, but they had a trial. He was acquitted twice. So their attempt to try to ban President Trump from ever holding office again is a pipe dream. It's a fantasy. And it just goes to show just how out of touch BLM leadership really is. Demand number 2, expel Republican members of Congress who attempted to overturn the election and incited a white supremacist attack. You know, that sounds a lot like Ilhan Omar wrote these demands. Is literally the kind of repulsive language that she uses on a daily basis. This demand goes on to say, quote, more than half the Republican representatives and multiple senators stoked Trump's conspiracy theories and encouraged the white supremacists to take action to overturn the election. We are supporting Representative Cori Bush's resolution to expel them from Congress for their dangerous and traitorous actions. We also support steps to bar them from seeking another office. Again, sorry, gang, it's not going to happen. I mean, you can demand it all you want, but you're not going to expel half the Republican representatives and multiple senators. And note the reference to conspiracy theories. Again, this is coming from the crowd who sees white supremacists behind every single institutional corner of the nation, as well as the same far-left crowd that for over 3 years peddled in the Russian collusion lie that claimed that Trump stole the 2016 election. Demand number 3, launch a full investigation to the ties between white supremacy and the Capitol Police, law enforcement, and the military. Well, I'm glad to see that we're not dealing with any more conspiracy theories. Thank you for that. Demand number 4, permanently ban Trump from all digital media platforms. Now, this, of course, is what we talked about in yesterday's video that you'll definitely want to check out, by the way, because one of the things that we cover, actually we cover quite extensively, is that there really is a massive worldwide backlash against this attempt at silencing conservative and populist voices on the internet. We're seeing nations like Hungary, Russia, Poland, France, India, all rising up, passing laws that are imposing steep penalties on Facebook and Twitter and Google for censoring conservative speech. And here in the States, we even highlighted Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is signing the first law in the nation that would penalize big tech media outlets from censoring conservative politicians. So BLM really is just showing itself to be behind the curve here. They are definitely siding with an increasingly marginal view. Demand number 5, defund the police. Now, if you thought permanently censoring people like Trump from social media was unpopular, this 5th demand is frankly downright stupid. Do you know how few blacks actually want to do this, to defund the police? According to the latest Gallup poll, 81% of black people want the police presence to remain the same or even increased in their neighborhoods. 81% of black people are diametrically opposed to this defund and disband nonsense being pushed by BLM and the far left of the Democratic Party. Or how about my favorite example of this nonsense? We did a video you want to check out on how just weeks after unanimously voting to abolish the Minneapolis Police Department, that same city council, if you can believe it, like something straight out of the Babylon Bee, that same city council that unanimously voted to abolish the police just weeks later voted unanimously to approve over $6 million in additional funding for the police after getting hit with a massive backlash against the defund the police efforts. After month of rising crime rates, the very ultra-left Marxist city council that initially voted to completely defund the police department now is giving them $6 million more than the police department requested. You can't make this stuff up. You're going to love that video. You have to check that out. It was such a humiliating admission of political defeat and all this, the ridiculousness of the whole defund and the police insanity. The consequences of the absurdity of BLM were horrific on this city. Minneapolis really was ground zero for the fallout of far leftist social engineering. And now BLM wants this very defund and disband policy implemented on police departments throughout the nation. Yeah. Good luck. I'll let you read the rest of these demands on your own. Suffice it to say, it just goes downhill from there. Now, what sense should we make of all this? Well, politically, I agree with the election wizard on this on Twitter. BLM gave up all its leverage and credibility by publishing this list of demands. As long as they focused purely on criminal justice reform and straddled the political fence, they could actually court both Republicans as well as Democrats in their favor. Think of the way Mittens Romney marched with BLM activists last summer, right? Now with these listed demands, they come across truly as radical Marxist leftists. And one has to wonder, why would they come across that way? Could it be that BLM really is a bunch of radical Marxist leftists? So in many ways, they way overplayed their hand here, and they just don't realize how much they've weakened themselves politically from this point forward. They're already politically imploding anyway. But at another level, I think we're seeing in BLM a particular fulfillment of what the French sociologist Michel Mafusoli predicted back in the 1970s and 80s, which is something he called neo-tribalism, okay? Neo-tribalism is the notion that the world is slowly but surely reorganizing around racial and ethnic identities. And the basic argument here is that with the death of liberal globalism, which has been collapsing now for the last few decades, with the inevitable death of liberal globalism, the world is basically fracturing, right? It's breaking up. We've talked about this numerous times on other videos. Populations are increasingly reorganizing themselves around their own shared identity markers, such as nation, culture, custom, and yes, ethnicity and race. And this is basically what we're seeing here with BLM. The new Marxism today is no longer the economic Marxism of the 20th century, right? Capitalism versus communism and all that. The new Marxism is cultural, in that the Marxist categories of oppression, where you have oppressor and the oppressed, what Marx would have called the bourgeois and the proletariat. Those oppression categories are no longer defined in terms of economy or class. But now, as we can plainly see with these new BLM demands, now those oppression categories are defined in highly racial and ethnic terms. The new Marxism is a thoroughly cultural Marxism, and it's one that promises to ultimately rip our nation apart to its very foundations if more and more patriots do not rise up and push back. The good news is that we do seem to be seeing a massive backlash, particularly at the international level. First, you should know we did actually a really exciting video on how there is, as we speak, a massive anti-woke backlash that's absolutely crushing critical race theory all over the nation. You'll definitely want to check out that video. But not only that, even the International Olympics Committee is clamping down on all of this nonsense. Podium protests have been officially banned at both the Tokyo Olympics and the Beijing Winter Games after 2/3 of the athletes polled said that they believed it was not appropriate to demonstrate or express political views on the victory podium, field of play, or at official ceremonies. And that includes any and all BLM paraphernalia and symbols. So it looks like the backlash against this cultural Marxism is indeed swelling up around the world. And it's a backlash that will only grow as a result of these latest absurd demands. Now, before you go, you'll definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded. It's on how President Trump lashes out at the utterly absurd Facebook ban, all as the city of Madrid turns to the populist right. So we look at the latest absurdity coming from big tech oligarchs, how more and more nations are actually rising up and pushing back against big tech's censorship, and how Spain's capital city has officially become home to the latest nationalist populist coalition that may indeed be a bellwether for elections sweeping the continent. You're not going to want to miss it, so make sure to click on the link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.